Hey, Marcus House with you here, along with many terrific updates at Starbase with all things Starship and great new footage shared by SpaceX too. We have the exciting Crew 3 mission coming up very soon. A launch as well with Ariane Space with a new record being broken, and Orbital Reef, that came out of nowhere too.
Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
Welcome back to another week of updates from Starbase, where the SpaceX teams are putting all their effort into readying not only Ship 20 and Booster 4, but also the launch tower and the ground support equipment for the first orbital launch. As always, the amazing Starship gazer there picking up some terrific shots at Starbase this week. For any rocket launch, you not only need the flight hardware to be tested and readied for the mission, but also you need a robust launch tower and ground support equipment to fuel the launch vehicle and support the launch as well. We need systems to provide important telemetry, protection from lightning, and much more. Stage 0, as Elon Musk likes to call it, is as complicated as the launch vehicle production, possibly more so, and that is why it has taken quite some time to get ready for this groundbreaking flight test. On Monday, we saw what seemed to be perlite expansion furnaces at the orbital launch farm. Now, what is perlite, you may ask? Well, it is a naturally occurring volcanic glass that has a relatively high water content. When exposed to higher temperatures of a furnace, perlite expands 15 to 20 times its original volume, and this is known as expanded perlite. This is used to manufacture the insulation for cryogenic tanks, as it acts as an amazing insulator. Now, I think you can see where I'm going with this. These furnaces are here to produce the expanded perlite, which will be used as a filling between the ground support equipment tanks and the cryo shells. We also saw more movements of the quick disconnect or QD arm. As we've talked about in length a number of times, this arm will be used to fuel this Starship when it is stacked on top of the Super Heavy booster during the launch. Not only that, but it also has to rapidly move away as the Starship lifts off, hence the name. So we've also seen the teams at the launch site working hard to finalise the installation of the catch arms, lovingly called the chopsticks, on the launch tower. As soon as this is finalised, it's going to allow future catching of both a booster and Starship, but in the short term it's also going to provide the ability to stack the Starship and Super Heavy together, as we saw back in August. This time though without the use of the LR11350 crane. On Monday, the teams installed large pulleys on the arms which will enable them to move and perform the necessary operations. The next day, a hydraulic actuator was also lifted and installed for fit checks, and it was later then lowered down. This will be used to move and control the arms. On Thursday, we actually saw the arms move laterally for the first time, which gives us a glimpse of how the arms move to catch the massive Super Heavy booster. So yes, who would have thought that we'd see such an outrageous but amazing recovery system being actually built here? We've talked about this a lot, but it still kind of blows my mind every week. We also got some wonderful views of the production and launch site, as SpaceX put out an amazing video named Gateway to Mars on Twitter. It not only showed some really cool shots inside the production tents, but it also included a beautiful zoom out shot of the orbital launch tower during the first stacking of Ship 20 over the top of Booster 4. Always terrific to see some fresh new video content like this from SpaceX. Sadly, the copy here on Twitter is only at 720p, so let's hope that they publish this in a higher quality format at some point. Work on Booster 4 continued, and this week we saw these aero covers just beside suborbital pad A waiting for installation. These covers have some heat shield tiles installed on them, which I suspect are just test samples. Perhaps in future we'll see these more fully or just partially covered with tiles. The idea here is that they're going to protect the protruding COPVs from high atmospheric forces during the flight. We also saw teams working on what seemed to be the heat shield around the skirt of the Super Heavy. This will not only protect the booster during the re-entry, but also from the immense heat of the nearby Raptor engines during the ascent. Now, there has been a steady delivery of Raptor engines for the future Starship and Super Heavy orbital launches. This week we saw the arrival of Raptor Boost 30, 32 and 33 engines at the production site. Two of the Raptor engines were then headed to the launch pad, and they were integrated with Ship 20. On Thursday, the remaining two Raptor vacuum engines were brought in and installed, which now means that this beast now has all the Raptor engines it needs for the orbital flight. Now, there is a chance that SpaceX might conduct a triple engine static fire of the sea-level Raptor engines, so keep your eye out for a new set of beach road closure dates. Now, speaking of Raptor engines, we got some juicy updates from Elon regarding the first static fire of Raptor version 2. Currently, of course, all the engines that we've recently seen in action are version 1. The new engines not only have significant improvements, but they're also highly simplified. Elon tweeted the other day that the engine got to 321 bar before a rapid unscheduled disassembly, adding that the cause may be due to oxygen inlet pressure being too low rather than it being an engine issue. That is a sign that perhaps SpaceX could be able to push the engine even higher. Although this tweet didn't explicitly mention Raptor 2, when asked about the Raptor's thrust, Elon replied saying that Raptor 2 has a larger throat diameter, so the thrust is 245 tons at 321 bar. So yes, this confirms that the previous tweet was indeed about Raptor 2. For those of you who are not aware, the 321 bar of pressure refers to the pressure experienced by the combustion chamber of the Raptor engine. This chamber is the heart of any rocket engine. The fuel injectors spray the incoming fuel and the oxidizer in, where it is then ignited. Previously, the Russian-made RD-701 was the record holder for the highest chamber pressure at over 303 bar, but this engine never went into operation. For an operational engine, the record belonged to the Russian RD-180, which powers United Launch Alliance's Atlas V at 267 bar. This was uncontested for years before the Raptor engine finally broke this record in 2020, where Elon tweeted about the Raptor engine reaching 330 bar of chamber pressure without exploding. Now, just a quick shout out to the Starship Artists of Spaceflight team for the creation of this calendar. I did a shout out for this a few weeks back, but hey, I've just received it in the mail literally today. So yeah, check this out. The video probably won't do it justice, but the quality is just beautiful. Each month has a terrific render by many of the amazing artists out there that provide the space community with all of this magic every week. You can order that direct through them from the link in the description below to support all of their amazing work. This doesn't go through me in any way. I just absolutely love it, and they have just been so thrilled with the responses of it all, so thank you all for supporting what they are doing and for also following and subscribing to their channels as well. That has already helped them a great deal, just as it does for me when you are liking, sharing or subscribing my videos right here. Amazing of you all to help the community to do what we all do. Throughout the week, we saw the team working on Booster 2.1's test tank. Now, we didn't know what they were planning to do with this, but now we do. On Thursday, it was rolled over to the booster test stand and was lifted in place. It's clear that SpaceX wants to conduct some more tests using this tank and this equipment. Now, if you have been following SpaceX's Starship development for quite some time, you know that these big cranes are crucial for Starbase operations. On Friday morning, a brand new LR-11000 crane arrived at the launch site, and we've been expecting its arrival now for quite some time. This is a twin of the big yellow crane at the launch site, but this one is painted black and has a huge SpaceX logo on it. Where the previous cranes at Starbase have largely been rented, this one is actually owned by SpaceX, and to waste no time, the teams immediately got to work to assemble it. Over at the build site, SpaceX continues to increase their production rate for Starship and Super Heavy. Due to this, they need a larger space to process these vehicles, and that is where the new wide bay comes in. As the name suggests, it is just like the high bay, but a lot wider, allowing the teams to work on more Starships and boosters. They need the much larger facilities to finalise the stacking and essential work on the new launch vehicles just before they head to the launch pad for testing. Work on the new wide bay's foundation has been going on for the past month as workers complete foundation work laying down the concrete for its base. Only recently we saw the crane here being rigged with these beams, which were then lifted and put into place. Thanks to RGV aerial photography, Mauricio's latest flight midweek shows us that there are a lot of parts for the wide bay that have already arrived. It surely looks like SpaceX is very eager to get this construction done as quickly as possible. Likewise, SpaceX teams have been steadily marching forward to complete the production of the next orbital Starship, Ship 21. It'll be the second orbit-capable Starship produced by SpaceX, and it should be launched on Booster 5, which is also the second flight-capable Super Heavy. In the mid-bay, Ship 21's forward dome section was stacked on the common dome, completing the stack of the liquid methane tank. We also had an amazing view of what seemed to be Ship 21's nose cone, packed with an almost complete set of thermal protection system tiles. It seems to me like SpaceX has learned a lot about installing them for the first time on Ship 20. They look here a lot more uniform and flush. Let's hope that this suffers less tile ejection problems than Ship 20. Meanwhile, both Booster 5's forward dome section and the liquid oxygen tanks are in the high bay and are ready for stacking. Although a lot of work is still left to get both of the vehicles ready for flight, we can expect that both Ship 21 and Booster 5 will be ready to roll out and be flight ready before the end of this year. Pretty crazy to think that SpaceX is almost ready with their second set of orbital vehicles. But wait, there is also more. The production of Booster 6 is also underway, with its aft dome being placed onto a sleeving stand, where it was then sleeved later on. We also saw the delivery of a crucial component of Booster number 9, with its thrust puck being delivered on Sunday. This amazing shot by Boca Chica Gal with NASA Spaceflight shows that this puck looks almost exactly the same as with Booster 8's, with the capability to install 13 Raptor engines in the inner ring. This again increases that Raptor count to 33, and just a reminder that Booster 4 only has the 29 engines for the first orbital flight test. Okay, so exciting times ahead once again with SpaceX's Crew Dragon Endurance Crew 3 mission. That's actually tomorrow based on the release date of this video, so very exciting. Upon arrival at the International Space Station, there will of course be an initial overlap with Crew 2 to hand over to the new crew members. Crew 2 will then head home for splashdown in early to mid-November. In what will be a standard long duration stay of 6 months on board the International Space Station, Crew 3 will return home around late April of 2022. So as we prepare to cover this mission for you, I thought it would be timely to cover just who are Crew 3. First off, we have the mission commander Raja Shari. He joined the astronaut candidate training program in 2017. As a decorated colonel in the Air Force, he has over 2,000 hours of flight experience. With a bachelor's degree in astronautical engineering and engineering science, something tells me he's going to be very busy up there. Dr. Thomas Mashburn is on his third flight to space and is the pilot for this mission. He was selected by NASA in 2004 and completed his astronaut candidate training 2 years after that. He has a Bachelor of Science in Physics, a Master's in Engineering Physics, a medical doctorate, and a Master's in Medical Science. So yeah, a bit of an underachiever, is he? Previous missions include STS-127 in 2009, and this also included an emergency spacewalk of over 5.5 hours to replace a faulty ammonia pump. He also launched from Baikonur in 2013, where he was part of Expedition 34 and 35 alongside others like Chris Hadfield. With all those missions under his belt, he accumulated over 146 days in space. So having flown on Shuttle, Soyuz and shortly Dragon, he's going to be an even more accomplished astronaut. We have Kayla Barron, who joins the team as a mission specialist, and like Raja, she joins the astronaut candidate class in 2017. A graduate of the US Naval Academy, earning a bachelor's degree in systems engineering, and with a degree in nuclear engineering, she's a true role model to other young ladies looking to get a career in the space program. Then finally we have Matthias Mauder, who will be acting as the second mission specialist. He actually is only the second European Space Agency astronaut to participate in NASA's Commercial Crew program, and he is known as a bit of an inventor. He holds over 10 patents, as well as multiple engineering diplomas in materials science. Professionally, he has served as a paramedic, a junior scientist, and a project engineer. A most deserving addition to the crew there for sure. So yes, Raja, Matthias and Kayla are all on their first flights as astronauts, and as we've seen in past missions, once an astronaut passes the 100-kilometre Kármán line, they will earn their golden astronaut pin. I'm wondering if we will once again see a triple gold pin ceremony as Dragon chases down the International Space Station. Now, last Sunday, Ariane 5 jumped off the pad for the last time before the much-anticipated James Webb Space Telescope launch. What you see here is most likely a thrust-to-weight ratio of about 1.5. This is a similar target value to what Elon Musk wants to achieve with a full-stack Starship. Ariane 5 achieves this with the help of the two very powerful solid rocket boosters, which provides over 90% of the thrust at liftoff. This means over 1,000 metric tons of force are provided by the massive solid rocket boosters, while the cryogenic engine of the core stage is bringing around 100 metric tons of force to the table. Now, the payload, which is in this case 2 satellites, has a combined mass of 10.3 metric tons, with the destination being a geostationary transfer orbit. These were SES-17 for civilian communication and Syracuse 4A for the French military. Most interesting, I think, was that the combined mass of both of these satellites is the heaviest payload to be ever launched into such an orbit. The upper stage has to add around 2.4 kilometers per second of velocity to the already incredibly fast 7.8 kilometers per second needed for low Earth orbit. Hey, that's fast enough to get from LA to San Francisco in just a tad more than a minute. Wow, that is pretty awesome. But why a geostationary transfer orbit? Well, many satellites are placed in what's called a geostationary orbit. It's an orbit nearly 36,000 kilometers above the Earth, and the cool thing about this type of orbit is that its required velocity is so low that a satellite takes exactly 1 day to complete a full orbit. This means that if you are standing on the ground, the satellite sits in a stationary position, never moving in the sky. This is perfect, of course, for satellite dishes to continually point at, and it's very different to, say, Starlink, which has many satellites passing rapidly overhead, requiring phased array antennas to continually switch focus to the most appropriate satellite. The latency differences, of course, between the two types of satellite are obviously vastly different. Now, some quite breaking news this week with a consortium of industry groups announcing their intent to develop a commercial space station called Orbital Reef. Led by Blue Origin, Sierra Space and Boeing, the aim is to provide a low Earth orbit research facility capable of fulfilling a wide spectrum of customer needs. This outpost is to be for all of humanity, regardless of visitor country of origin, and this proposal really aims to open up space for all. From research, manufacturing, filming and a host of other reasons to visit, this is one venture sure to harness great interest. Now, Blue Origin will construct some modules and they will expect their New Glenn rocket to do the heavy lifting. Boeing is going to contribute science modules, and the Starliner capsule will ferry crew and cargo back and forward. Sierra Space will provide modules to serve as the main living quarters, and potentially also it looks like their Dream Chaser spaceplane could have a role ferrying crew and cargo as well. So yes, what does all this mean? The announcement of Orbital Reef is in response, of course, to NASA's Low Earth Orbit Destinations program. NASA's future research and technology development requirements come at a massive cost, and finding a cheaper way to achieve these objectives means opening up the opportunities in space to commercial entities just like this. Governments have, of course, funded space ventures over many decades. So far, that has been a very conservative approach, with humanity restricted to activities close to home or low Earth orbit. Of course, after the retirement of the space shuttle, 9 years passed with the United States having zero capability to get humans into orbit without the aid of Russia's Soyuz. Thanks to SpaceX's new Crew Dragon making its first launch last year, that has thankfully changed, and it's also spurred on a huge push by many other commercial entities. So yes, a successful bid by the group led by Blue Origin should mean a small amount of funding assistance to study and develop a habitat that can be used once the International Space Station is retired from service. Interestingly, the second stage of this bidding process doesn't begin until around 2025, where a NASA certification is then involved. So confidence is so high at being one of the winning round one bidders, the consortium of companies linked to Orbital Reef are heavily investing right now in development. A huge proportion of the development funding will be from the consortium itself. This is a very brave step indeed, and it's great to see them putting some money where their mouth is. The timeline is such that they will aim to have a commercial station ready for consideration by the time the round 2 certification program begins. I guess the logic here is that this will allow time for certification, launch and assembly in orbit, with a nice time buffer before retirement of the International Space Station itself. That is currently estimated to be sometime around 2030. Of course, Orbital Reef is not alone. Just 4 days prior to this announcement here, NanoRacks, Voyager Space and Lockheed Martin revealed their plans for a private station called Starlab. In previous episodes, we've also covered Axiom Space, and their intention is to berth modules to the International Space Station in the nearer future. In that case, their modules will serve as a core of a new commercial space station, allowing for the eventual retirement of the current station, which would detach and presumably drop into the atmosphere for a fiery demise. eyes. I like that with all these proposed station options that we essentially have several private sector facilities that could be operational in the future. So saying all that, it would be nice to see some more evidence to take all of this seriously. There's also a huge regulatory approval process to go through. With the slowness of various bodies out there regulating such things, it seems hard to see such a launch cadence with frequent flights from all of these launch providers. I can't help but agree with Elon Musk here, essentially saying that the current regulatory structure for rocket launches is simply outdated. So yes, there we go, another week of space, and you are all caught up now. I think it's amazing that there is so much future enthusiasm for all things space right now, and it seems to be only accelerating even more every month. I look forward to a time where it could be a reasonably affordable exercise to experience microgravity in orbit, visit a commercial space station, or even have a career supporting off-world industries. Asteroid mining, moon colonies, Mars settlements, you name it. But for this, launch costs need to go down significantly, and that is what this is all about. I'm interested in your thoughts on this actually. We have so much potential with Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos being literally the two that have the most asset base behind them to do all of these incredible things. In one case we have Musk just trying to have approvals to get it done, and Bezos who, well, likes to promise a lot of stuff and show a lot of nice pictures, but is still to get anything to orbit. It's great to dream big, but yeah, at the same time, maybe also finish off that vehicle and launch something so that the industry takes it a little more seriously. I'd just love to see that is for sure. Also, last week, Ellie in Space interviewed me about the channel here and what I do. I don't often talk about myself, so if you want to check that out, you can do so from the card popping up in the top right here. She put it together really nicely on her channel, and thanks for reaching out there, Ellie. Awesome chatting with you. Thanks very much for watching all the way through here. That means a lot, and it certainly helps to show YouTube that you value the content. If you happen to be a YouTube member or a patron supporter, oh wow, am I grateful for you all being here with us. That midweek video that we published on Tuesday was a big labour of love from the whole team, something that is pretty much entirely funded by that support alone. If you missed that one, there is a card popping up here right now. It's a little technical, so don't let that scare you off. I think there's a lot of interesting ideas there about a Mars return mission before refilling systems even exist on the planet itself, so check that out. If you like the design of this shirt that I'm wearing right here, you can pick that up from the links below. Yet another great way to support what we do here, and remember that shipping takes a little longer around the Christmas period, so you want to get that underway right now. That comes in a reversed version as well for light colours, or even without the logo or the text if you prefer it that way. No matter how you support what I do here, it is very awesome of you. If you'd like to help as well, you can join as a YouTube member via the join button below, or you can become a patron at patreon.com/MarcusHouse. Either of those options gives you access to chat to us more directly via the linked roles on our Discord server. You can also have your names listed right here like these other amazing people, and you also get earlier and ad-free access to the videos to watch before anyone else gets them. Thanks to the production crew helping me with scripting and editing. I'm so thrilled to have such a great bunch of people working with me. Very talented individuals. If you're interested in these topics and you would like to keep up to date, remember to follow here below and on Twitter at MarcusHouse. In the tile in the bottom left today, we have that midweek video. In the top right is my latest video, and in the bottom right, content that YouTube has selected from the channel just for you. Thank you everyone, as always, for watching all this way through, and we'll see you all in the next video.